Turks, Cenk Uygur, Anna Kasparian on a lovely Monday afternoon. It is, well, at least here in LA, lovely evening for you guys in different parts of the country. It is Martin Luther King Day, my favorite day of the year. I love Martin Luther King. He's my hero, my role model. I've got an MLK shirt on right here. Oh yeah, that's from Shop TYT. They tell me it's 30% off today. Is it just today? Well, I guess you got to panic and act today. Okay. We've also got other shirts. I asked for these shirts, even though people were like, really? Who's gonna read a giant quote from Martin Luther King on your shirt? And my argument is, everyone. Okay.
Do you wear that shirt?
I do from time to time, yes. It says, we must straighten our backs and work for our freedom. A man can't ride you unless your back is bent. Okay, no bending here. I like that quote. Yes, goddamn right. I love Martin Luther King. We've got a couple of those quotes at shoptyt.com. And the thing that I'm going to say two more things about Martin Luther King, then we got a hell of a show for you guys today. But one is I can't get past not only what a great brain he had, but what a great heart he had. So I would argue that Martin Luther King is the best at, let alone fighting for freedom and civil rights for everyone, but the best at giving speeches that I have ever heard, ever. It's possible that in the history of humanity, some people gave a speech in Spanish or in Lithuanian that I didn't hear and they were better than Martin Luther King, but of all the ones that I have ever read or seen, Martin Luther King is head and shoulders above everyone else. But even that is not his number one trait. And I talk about this often. He said, we don't go down to the South just to liberate African Americans from the plight that they are in. We go to liberate the white racists from the hate in their heart because it's killing them. God, that is so magnanimous. I can fathom the speeches. I cannot fathom a heart that large. And so, yeah, I know. And I gotta be honest with you, it's not what we do. From time to time we do it, but I don't, obviously I'm not that good a man. We come to kick ass and fight the aggressors, but he was better than that. And just, you cannot respect the man enough. And so hats off to him, obviously on today's show and always. But the second thing is, I also feel, as he said in one speech, sometimes I get discouraged. But there is a balm for the sin-sick soul. So we are looking for that balm, and we believe that we will find it for the country, and that our sin-sick soul, which is among its darkest hours today, with Trump in office, a deeply racist president in office in the year 2018, that we will find it, we will find that cure, and we'll bring the country back to the vision that Martin Luther King had. Okay, so having said all that, hell of a show. We've got the shithole comments, obviously. We've got 1,000 different variations of that. Trump goes after Palestinians. We will talk about that. They go back after him. And I think my favorite story today is Chelsea Manning. And I wonder if I will surprise you with my thoughts on that. Yes, and putting aside MLK Day, which always puts me in a good mood, otherwise I am in a salty mood. So anything can happen on today's show. Everybody buckle up.
Okay.
All right, okay, yes. Anna, take it away.
All right. Today is MLK Day, and unfortunately, on this day, a debate rages on regarding just how racist our president is. The comments that he made in regard to El Salvador, Haiti, and African countries, calling them so-called shitholes, is something that people are still talking about, and the president has now denied that he has said it, even though Senator Durbin stands by his statements that he did in fact say what he said. And there are now other lawmakers who are coming to Trump's defense saying, no, he didn't say shithole, he said something else. Now, before we get into all the details of who said what, let's take a look at Trump's denial after a press pool reporter asked him whether or not he made these statements.
Comments the other day made it harder. Did you see what various senators in the room said about my comments that were made. No, I'm not a racist. I am the least racist person you have ever interviewed. That I can tell you.
Because he knows every individual that reporter has ever interviewed in his lifetime. And no, you are the most racist president we've had in modern times, at least. I mean,
yeah, so who says things like I'm the least racist person you've ever known? Usually a racist.
A stable genius says those kinds of things, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, look, I don't want, every time this comes up, I don't want to relitigate his whole history of racism. I'll just leave it at.
I do.
Yeah, Central Park, yeah, all right.
No. I actually want to thank the New York Times for compiling the definitive list of all the racist things that Trump has said. That list is so long that I unfortunately cannot recount everything for you, but here are the doozies, okay? And I tried to keep this as short as possible, but it was quite a task. He began his 2016 presidential campaign with a speech disparaging Mexican immigrants as criminals and rapists. In December of 2015, Trump called for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States, including refusing to readmit Muslim American citizens who were outside of the country at the time. In June of 2017, Trump said 15,000 recent immigrants from Haiti, quote, all have AIDS, and that 40,000 Nigerians, once seeing the United States, would never go back to their huts in Africa. He spent years suggesting that the nation's first black president was born not in the United States, but in Kenya, a lie that Trump still has not acknowledged. Trump falsely claimed that President Obama issued a statement for Kwanzaa, but failed to issue one for Christmas. Like,
oh, come on.
So, you know what? Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. He didn't call those countries shithole countries, okay? But how do you answer to the long list of terrible racist things that you've said and owned up to?
Yeah, to me, the Central Park Five is the worst of the worst. It's 5 black kids. They were accused of rape. Donald Trump took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. It turns out that they didn't do it. And years later, we find out definitively they didn't do it. They caught the real rapist with his DNA, etc. They let those guys go at that point. Donald Trump said, I don't care. I still think they should be in prison. Why? But we know for a fact that they are innocent. He doesn't care. It's 5 black kids attacked, in his mind, attacked a white woman. They must have done something. I mean, why? If there was 5 white right-wingers from Kansas who were falsely accused, and we found out later, oh my God, they didn't do it. You know what I'd say? Let him out of prison. Are you crazy?
Yeah.
Let him out of prison.
What kind of monster would call for the death penalty for people who have been exonerated?
He's the worst of the worst. Anyway, I don't give him any benefit of that.
Yeah, neither do
I. Definitely said it, and we're going to prove it in a hilarious excuse in a minute. But Anna's got more.
Yes, I do have more. I just want to read you a couple more, just to refresh your memory. He frequently criticizes prominent African Americans for being unpatriotic, ungrateful, and disrespectful, and has referred to NFL players as sons of bitches.
But the ones taking a knee, which are almost all black.
Exactly. He called Puerto Ricans who criticize his administration's response to Hurricane Maria, by the way, Puerto Ricans who are in fact American citizens, he called them politically motivated ingrates.
Ingrates, that's really classy.
He has called some of the white nationalists in Charlottesville, Virginia, very fine people. Trump pardoned Joe Arpaio, the Arizona sheriff sanctioned for racially profiling Latinos and for keeping immigrants in brutal prison conditions. In November of 2017, during a meeting with Navajo veterans of World War II, Trump mocked Senator Elizabeth Warren as Pocahontas. Also, don't forget that Trump's real estate company tried to avoid renting apartments to African Americans in the 1970s and gave preferential treatment to whites, and that's according to the federal government. So I was being incredibly sarcastic when I said that I was giving him the benefit of the doubt. The point that I'm trying to make is that his comments about El Salvador and Haiti and African countries were not that shocking to me. Because for me, this is par for the course when it comes to Donald Trump. This is not surprising, this is to be expected. This will not be the last time he says something terrible and racist. And it not only has ramifications in regard to race relations in the US, it has ramifications internationally, okay? He is not gonna be an effective leader if he's a piece of shit like this. And it's unfortunate that we get involved in these debates regarding whether or not he's racist when the proof is right here in front of us, not from one instance or two instances, but from several throughout decades.
Okay, and I don't want people to misunderstand it, because I think the Democrats often do a bad job here, and they try to separate Trump from the rest of the Republicans. Like, oh, the rest of the Republicans are okay. No, they're not. So right now you got Senator Perdue and Cotton lying for Donald Trump. By the way, later he'll throw them under the bus and admit that he said it, and then they'll be stuck holding the bag, okay? But they're saying they don't recall whether he said it. It's not like it happened 20 years ago, it happened a couple of days ago. What's there to recall or not recall? That's the poorest excuse I've ever heard.
Senator Lindsey Graham, who was also there and who also heard it and also confirmed that he referred to those countries as shitholes, reiterated today that his memory has not evolved and that he heard what he heard.
Okay, yeah, I love the people whose memories evolve in the span of a couple of days. So that is a Republican senator saying, yes, Dick Durbin is right, he said it. That's two senators, bipartisan. He clearly said it, of course he said it. It's in keeping with everything that he's ever done, but I'm gonna go further. Look, that Kwanzaa comment, so it's a lie. First of all, if you believe Donald Trump on anything, you're an idiot. All he does is lie. So he says the first black president we ever had celebrated Kwanzaa, but refused to celebrate Christmas officially. Now, why would you make up a lie like that? Because you're a goddamn racist, okay? So look, I think the word racist is charged. I get it. And people are like, it's a heavy charge, let's put it that way, okay? So you shouldn't make it lightly. We are not making it lightly. He has an entire lifetime of discriminating against African Americans and saying abhorrent things about blacks, Latinos, and on and on and on. And if you can't see that, man, you don't want to see it. And I wonder why you don't want to see it. It's because it's glaringly obvious. So
I think everyone, including those that continuously defend him, know that he said it. And they might publicly deny it, but internally they know he said it, and those who are defending him kind of love that he said it. And then there are those who don't even deny that he says it and make excuses or defend that kind of statement. Well, he's just calling it like it is. I mean, that's what you heard over and over again during the election. He's just calling it like it is. You think that it's a good idea to go after the allies of ours and refer to their countries as shitholes?
You think he's not a blogger. He's not some random alt-right dude on Twitter. He's the president of the United States. You think it makes sense for the president to refer to a whole continent as shithole and then turn around and go, what do you mean? I just called all of Africa a shithole. Why would that be perceived as racist? I can't quite tell. Did you make a distinction between the Nigerian economy and the economy of Botswana? Come on, he couldn't name Botswana if his life depended on it. Okay, no, he's like, Africa, shithole. Whoa, how could that be racist? Listen, if you're defending him on that, I get it, dude, I get it. You don't like him despite the fact that he's a racist. You like him because he's a racist. For you, that's not the bug, that's the feature. Just say it, own up to it. Why won't you just come out and be honest? I thought you guys were so brave. All those alpha males of the right wing. What are you cowering in the bushes for? Just pop out and declare what you are. Say, yeah, I don't like blacks and Latinos. I think they're inferior, right? Just say it, and then we'll be done with it. It's so obvious that that's why you like Trump. What else has he accomplished? Tax cuts for the rich, that's why you're rooting for him? Why, are you a millionaire or a billionaire? No, you like that he's racist.
So there were some comments from those on the right, essentially confirming what he had said and also criticizing him. So I do want to give them some credit for that. Eric Erickson, who by no means is a liberal, said the following on Twitter. Let's go to graphic 12. It's weird that people in the room don't remember Trump using that word when Trump himself was calling friends to brag about it afterwards. I spoke to one of those friends. The president thought it would play well with the base. Going to what you were saying, Cenk, how it's not the bug, it's the feature for some. And then also the Associated Press had reported, citing a person who spoke with the president, the AP reported that Trump doubled down on his reported comments from this week, defending the remark as not racist, but quote, straightforward assessment of the living conditions in the countries discussed.
Okay, so Senators Cotton and Perdue, you stepped in it by trying to defend him by claiming you don't recall what happened At that time, hours ago, right? And now furiously continue to defend Donald Trump. You don't get it. He's going to admit it at some point. That's what he always does. He goes, no, I didn't necessarily say that. And later he goes, yes, so what? I did say it. But in the meanwhile, you lied for him like an idiot. And now he's going around telling friends, yeah, of course I said it. Oh, so smart, wasn't it? So smart. I got all my racist base to like me again. Because Ann Coulter had yelled at him and Tucker Carlson had yelled at him and saying, what are you doing helping immigrants with the DREAM Act? We don't want to help those kids who are really successful in America. We want to crush their dreams and hopes and send them back to countries they never lived in. And he goes, oh yeah, that's right. My base is a piece of shit. They're deplorables. They're the worst people on earth. So I'll be like them. I'll call these countries shitholes. And then I'll brag about it to my friends. And now that's leaked, and we know he said it. Now, you want to know the funniest excuse of all? Now, allies in the White House are saying, no, he didn't say shithole. He said shit house. That's your excuse?
Oh, that makes
That's your excuse.
That makes it better.
Okay, all right. I'm pretty sure, unfortunately, he's turned the White House into a shit house. We got to get him out, clean that place out completely, okay? And you want to talk about, they talked about how Bill Clinton disgraced the office. This guy's an absolute monumental disgrace to all of us as Americans. You got to get him out and then just send in the cleaners to wipe that place. It's become filthy now with the racists that are in there that are defiling the idea of America, our flag, and what we stand for as American citizens.
I do want to toss to Mia Love, Representative Mia Love, who is a Republican. She appeared on CNN and was asked about whether or not she thought Trump's statements were racist. Let's hear from her.
Were the comments racist, do you think?
Well, I think they were, yes. I think that they were unfortunate. I don't know if they were taken. I wasn't in the room. I know the comments were made. I don't know which context they were made. Jake, I can't defend the indefensible. You have to understand that there are countries that do struggle out there. But they're people. Their people are good people, and they're part of us. We're Americans. It was really difficult to hear, especially because my parents were such big supporters of the president. And I think that we have to do everything we can to make sure that we are coming from a place of compassion and we're speaking from a place of kindness. I mean, that is the at least minimal standard here. I think that one of the things we need to do is get people like me in the room. There are so many people frankly, I want to just make sure that everyone knows that I don't know if those comments would have been made if I were actually in the room. There's so many people that really care about this issue. Will Hurd, Carlos Curbelo, people on both sides of the aisle that should have been in that room talking about DACA. So that's the first thing. We have to make sure that we have the right people in the room talking about these issues. There's a lot of healing. There's a lot of, I still think that he should apologize. I think that there are people that are looking for an apology, and I think that would show real leadership.
Okay, so
Mia Love, by the way, just to really emphasize this, is the first Haitian American elected into office in Congress.
And she just as important for the context of this story, she's a conservative Republican. So now I'm going to say to Mia Love and Tim Scott what Ben Mankiewicz told me a long time ago and turned out to be right. You're in the wrong room, and we told you. So Mia Love came in and said, no, Republicans love black people. And that's why I'm proud to be a Republican. And she got elected in Utah. And oops, yeah, it turns out, no, look, you can't say it's not just Republicans, that it's just Donald Trump. Republican voters had 17 choices in that primary. And it's not like they didn't know what Trump was about. Trump was very clear. He called Mexican immigrants rapists and criminals.
And he started surging in the polls right after that.
That was not the bug, that was the feature. He attacked all Muslims, including Muslim American citizens. But Mia, you're not Muslim, so you didn't give a crap. You're not Mexican, so you didn't give a crap. And you wanted the tax cuts for the rich, and you wanted to please your donors and whatever other thoughts that you had. And so you thought, it's okay, they won't come for me. I mean, they'll only come for the trade unionists and they'll come for other people, but they won't come for me. Guess what happened, Mia? They came for you. It turns out you're Haitian and your parents are Haitian. Now all of a sudden you find out that Republicans like Donald Trump, who is your leader, not my leader, your leader, okay? He's the leader of your party. And all those other Republican senators in the room defending him, they don't like you either, Mia. Color me surprised. Tim Scott, only African-American Republican senator, talks to Lindsey Graham and another senator, another Republican from his own state of South Carolina, says, did he say it? Lindsey Graham says, yeah, he said it. And so Tim Scott is aggrieved. Tim, you thought the Republicans weren't racist. Is that what you thought? Okay, I'm waiting for Tim Scott, Mia Love, and all those others to apologize to us and say, oh, I guess they were. Oops, oops. All those times they want to take civil rights away from African Americans. They want to take voting rights away from African Americans. They pretended Obama was giving out Obama phones to only African Americans. They said that African Americans are bums and taking welfare, and you helped them. Mia Love and Tim Scott, you helped them with that ideology. And then you turn around and go, oh, he's coming after me. It turns out he's racist. Yeah, no shithole, Sherlock.
So, I mean, look, Trump definitely had some pretty terrible comments in regard to African Americans and blacks in the United States during the election as well. And so it's not like, Mia Love didn't experience some of his statements regarding, black communities throughout the country. She heard it, we all heard it. And he's an equal opportunity discriminator. Like he has gone after Koreans, he has gone after every group of people you could possibly imagine other than whites. Except whites, because they're good people. Even if they're white nationalists who run people over and murder them, there are good people on that side as well, according to Donald Trump. But what's interesting to me is that Trump has provided an interesting case study for the Republican Party, because before Trump, remember what they were trying to do? They were trying to rid themselves of that identity, of that discriminatory, hateful identity. They wanted to reach out to the Latino voters because they've always, had issues getting them to vote along with the party. They tried to convince people that, they didn't hate the black community. They wanted to, create better opportunities for them. Trump comes in, he says all these crazy things, right? These terrible racist things. And it's interesting to see who falls in line with Trump, who basically says, yeah, forget about that agenda where we try to lie to people about who we really are. We're gonna go ahead and side with Trump anyway. Some Republicans aren't buying it, but a lot of them are, and it's really interesting.
One last thing about Mia Love. So now she's getting a lot of love in the mainstream media because they love to give Republicans credit. They love it, right? It's Mia Love. He called out Donald Trump and saying that he's racist and she can't defend the indefensible. But let's pause for one more second here. Put aside all the other groups. Put aside Muslims. Nobody in mainstream media likes Muslims anyway. When he said during the campaign we should ban Muslim American citizens from coming back into the country, people were like, oh wow, that's a little controversial. I mean, if he said don't let the Jews back into the country, okay, everybody would have rightfully been furious, right? All these, but Muslims spit on them, move on. It's not that big a deal. Fine, okay, let's just talk about one group, Mexicans. So he said they're criminals and rapists coming into this country. Mia, where were you? Oh, when it's about you, all of a sudden you realize that the president is racist. But when he was going after Mexicans and saying those terrible things about them, where were you, Mia? Where were you? I didn't see you on CNN. I didn't see you jumping out going, wait a minute. Our leader of the Republican Party cannot say these things about Mexicans. I didn't see you defending them. I didn't see you defending anyone else. Now that it's your parents, oh my God, it turns out he's coming after me too. Well, I didn't bargain for that. Well, I hope you got rich off of this, and I hope you got powerful off of this, and I hope you got whatever you aim to get out of it. But you get no credit because you never defended anyone else. So spare me the crocodile tears now that you find out Trump and Republican voters are also not in favor of you.
Let's take a break. When we come back, we will talk about DACA and actual immigration policy.
I know what you're thinking.
I love how you do something with your lips when you play the sound clips.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Look at his lips.
I was a woman.
No, you're closing your mouth. Usually I'll be like, and I'm like, is he like lip syncing it?
I don't know. I never noticed it until you said it.
It's a funny habit.
It's not human intelligence!
TYT member.
They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.
Not been easy for me. I started off in Brooklyn. My father gave me a small loan of $1 million. All my life, I was told no.
He said I had small hands. They're not small. I never heard that one before.
That 300 million is a pretty good number, we were doing a press release on it, and I got all worked up. And I said, okay, well, that's the size of the U.S. population. You know what our next target is? The size of the entire world on the road to 6 billion. Although by the time we hit it, it'll probably be 7, maybe 8 billion.
Not a big deal. A couple of days ago on the TYT network, we passed 1 billion views.
What the hell?
What the hell?
No, that's a big freaking deal.
2 billion views.
What now?
Sorry.
What did we do? 2 billion?
2 billion.
They said it couldn't be done, but it was done.
We just crossed 5 billion views on YouTube.
I mean, imagine 10 years ago thinking, one day.
People looked at you like, are you nuts? Young Turks crosses 6 billion views.
They said you couldn't do it, you can't change the media, don't try. Well, here we are, we're changing the media. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Dream. My 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
All right, back on the Young Turks, Jen and Anna with you guys. Let me read a couple of tweets for you. Joel says, time for the best part of any Monday, TYT, go Jen and Anna. Well, thank you, Joel. Monica writes in, I don't know why whether 45 is a racist, such a difficult question. The answer is yes, and we've all known that. Those who voted and didn't vote for him knew it. Time to move on. Bill says, quoting Trump. Now it's fake news, not a real quote. He says, "Nobody knew how complicated racism could be." Bill, we LOL. You get a T-shirt. You can choose a Martin Luther King one, or get this one off for 30% off and take another one.
I mean, he refused to denounce David Duke's endorsement of him. Like he refused. Like I don't even know who David Duke is. Yes, you do. I mean, come on. From the very
You don't know who
beginning,
David Duke is.
We all knew it.
Come on. Anyway, shoptyt.com for the shirts. And Skepticus Rex says, Trump is definitely one of those guys that always says, "I'm not racist, but," and he says, "insert incredibly racist comment here." Definitely. And then YouTube Super Chat has TronMan420 saying, "Trump likes McDonald's because he's afraid someone will poison him." Wrap your brain around that one. Yeah, well, it's kind of hard to wrap your brain around anything he does. But I hear you, brother. All right, we got a lot more for you guys. Let's do it.
All right. Now that everyone has hashed out the issue involving Donald Trump referring to other countries as shitholes, let's focus a little bit on actual immigration policy, which is where that comment came from. Now, keep in mind that DACA is still an issue that has gone unresolved, meaning that the protected status of these DACA recipients is set to expire beginning in March. And so Democrats are supposed to be playing hardball with the spending bill in order to ensure that they get a deal on DACA and Republicans get what they need when it comes to funding the government to prevent a government shutdown. Democrats are demanding that deportation protections for 800,000 young immigrants be included in any extension of government spending, with a January 19 shutdown deadline looming. So that's by the end of this week. And look, I actually want to talk about this story, not to criticize Republicans, although they deserve some criticism. I want to criticize where are the Democrats? Like, if I were a Democrat right now, I would be on every cable news channel screaming and yelling and talking about what the Republicans are doing right now, talking about how they are putting, the well-being of this country on the line with a potential government shutdown because they refuse to sign on to protections for the Dreamers before their protections are set to expire. By the way, something that the vast majority of Americans agree to, Democrats and Republicans. Now, here's what Trump had to say about DACA. He says DACA is probably dead because the Democrats don't really want it. They just want to talk and take desperately needed money away from our military. So obviously he's full of it. Of course, Democrats want protections for the Dreamers. But would you know it? I mean, do you hear them? Do you see them aggressively fighting to protect the status of these DACA recipients? I don't know. I feel like you don't see the same type of battle. You don't see the same type of strength from those on the left as you do from the right. When the right wants something, they will hound you endlessly, nonstop, until they get exactly what they want. When the Gang of Six got together and presented Trump with their proposal for immigration, there was concession after concession after concession for the Republicans. Nonstop concessions.
Yeah. So let me dive even further into those details. So they said, okay, now we want DACA. So what we're going to do is we're going to trade you border security and ending the lottery and all these other things that Republicans are now attacking, chain migration. It's not a real phrase. They just made that up. Okay, it was a recent, term that they threw out there. What does it mean? It's chain migration. What does that mean? It means, okay, you can sponsor your family members to come here if you're a citizen. That's how a great number of people came to America in the first place. The Italian immigrants, the Polish immigrants, the German immigrants, and others as well. Because your family members are here. How else would you come here legally? What do you are you supposed to magically appear here with papers for what? For what? How?
They don't want immigration, and they don't want immigration from specific countries that they're not in favor of. Another concession, by the way, was $1.9 billion toward border security / Trump's border wall. $1.9 billion. Concession after concession.
But Republicans kept saying, we're only against illegal immigrants. And I told you from day one, we all told you that that was a lie. They don't like immigrants, period, right? Because it's a race issue. They don't like those races. So now they gave up the pretense. They're like, oh, we don't like legal immigrants either who came from chain migration. So okay, at least you admitted it. By the way, media, call it what it is. You guys love to go crazy over salacious comments like shithole. But the policy of the entire Republican Party, not Trump, the entire Republican Party is now they are against legal immigrants. Why? They don't want people from those countries coming here because they're fucking racist.
So why don't Democratic senators, Democratic members of Congress go on the warpath and say the things that you just said right now? Aggressively and in a very strong way. They won't do it, and that's the thing that drives me crazy. They are defeatists through and through. They concede, they don't fight back, and they just give the Republicans everything they want. January 19th is this week.
So they're going to give, in exchange for a deeply popular program, they're going to give the Republicans in this deal, if Trump finally takes the deal, right? They're going to give him all that money for the basically the wall. They're going to give them the budget. They're going to give them all those other parts of immigration that we don't agree to, but the Democrats are going to give away all this stuff. So what? They can get a program. Do you know how popular it is in the country, DACA? 70% of Americans are in favor of it. Do you know that even among Trump voters, a majority are in favor of DREAM Act? They want the Dreamers to stay. A majority of Trump voters. So what do? So because these Democrats who love to lose, they go, oh, but what could we do? We don't have any power. We already gave away the White House to Trump because we're morons. And then we gave them the House and we gave them the Senate, even though the majority of the country's progressive. That's according to the voting, no question about it. If you just did it based on democracy and you didn't have gerrymandered districts, the House, the Senate, and the White House would all be Democrat. But the Democrats somehow found a way to lose all those places because they're fucking losers. All right, so what would you do? A strong political stance would be, no, Trump said now 2 different times when he did the original deal with Pelosi and Schumer, and Pelosi and Schumer came out and bragged, oh, Trump's got a deal with us. No, you morons. He's gonna change his mind 28 times between that time and this time.
And he did.
And then Feinstein came out. Oh, Trump told me we're gonna get a clean DACA bill. Oh, you think so, Diane? Is that what you think? And then, of course, the next day he's like, no way, I'm not giving him DACA. It's pretty much dead. Oh, Diane, it turns out Trump lied to you. You didn't see that coming. Wow, you are a savvy politician. It's a good thing you've been in the Senate for about 58 years. Okay, so what should they have done? They always say like, oh, you guys are not practical. No, here's practical. We want a clean DACA bill. Well, then the Republicans aren't going to give it to you. Great. They just said that they are going to oppose something that 70% of Americans are in favor of, including a majority of Republicans. You know what that is? That is a political advantage for you.
Exactly.
And it doesn't mean you don't do that, you don't protect the Dreamers. It means you crush the Republicans, you fucking break their back. And then you go, okay, no, vote against DACA again. We're gonna propose it one more time. 2018, we just took 50 seats from you. Go ahead and be opposed to something that 70% of Americans are in favor of. Do it again, bitch. Do it again. I dare you. That's how you act. That's how you're strong. But instead, they go, oh, okay, here, take this. Give you your wall. Give you the budget. Did we do enough? No, goddammit, you didn't do enough. Because you're weak, you're losers, you're pathetic. How do you expect us to get excited to show up to the polls for these loser Democrats who can't figure out a way to fight against fucking Trump? Guy's at 32% popularity. 32% popularity. It's not time to do deals with him. It's time to break his fucking back and drink his spinal fluid and then fucking brag about it on TV. I just broke Trump like a bitch. Are you gonna do that? None of them, ever. Bunch of losers. Have I been clear enough?
You're very clear, very clear. All right, I can't follow that, so let's move on to the next story. Over the weekend, the good people of Hawaii were unfortunately met with a scare after the Emergency Management Agency had put out a false alert saying that a missile was set to hit the island of Honolulu. the island, one of the islands in Hawaii. All right, so, sorry, I just lost my train of thought.
No, let's just start again.
Yeah. The people of Hawaii were shocked and incredibly scared after they received an alert from the Emergency Management Agency saying that a missile was set to hit Hawaii. Now, it ended up being a mistake, and now people are wondering how it is that that mistake happened. So let me give you some of the details on that. The person or people in charge apparently pressed the wrong button, and the alert was not supposed to go out to everyone. It was supposed to be a drill to test the system and make sure that everything was working fine. Unfortunately, the alert went out to everyone, and people were genuinely concerned that a missile was gonna hit and that they could lose their lives. There is the alert that they received. It said that a ballistic missile threat inbound to Hawaii, seek immediate shelter. This is not a drill. And so if it says it's not a drill, of course you're gonna take it seriously. Now we have a couple examples of people reaching out to their family members and leaving voicemails. Just to give you a sense of how panicked everyone was, let's take a look at the first video.
Emily, if you can, call me right back, but we just got notice saying that there's a missile threat coming this way. It's not a drill. Take cover, there's not really a whole lot we can do, but if it's real and we're gone, I just want to say I love you, and I haven't been able to get with Jesse either, so please tell him, and yeah, we'll see what happens, but we can't seem to find anything on the internet or anything, but it came to our phone saying there's a threat. Okay, call me back if you can, bye.
All right, let's give you another example. This one's even more panicky.
If you're watching this video, that means I didn't make it because of the missile that's coming towards Hawaii. I just parred the last hole, and I just hit the shiznik out of my ball. So I love you all, but I'm playing golf. It's the last thing I'm gonna do.
Okay, so the National Weather Service in Honolulu released a statement saying that the initial alert was meant to be a test message. It was not meant to be sent to everyone. So one of the employees pressed the wrong button. That's the way it's been described. It's hard to believe that it's up to one person pressing one button, but here is the governor of Hawaii speaking to the employee who took responsibility for what occurred. Take a look.
Can you explain that error in depth as much as you can?
It was a procedure that occurs at the change of shift where they go through to make sure that the system is working, and an employee pushed the wrong button.
It came down to a person pushing the wrong button. Who is that person?
Well, it's one of our, it's my responsibility, so this would be my fault. The whole purpose of this is that the change of shift briefing is for each shift to understand what is the process. We'll take action to prevent this from ever happening again.
So two things about this. It's unbelievable that they don't have a double fail-safe before they put out a message saying this is not a drill. Like, it seems like two people should at least press the button before it goes to the public, and person number two should say, "Are you sure?" Right? So if that is in fact the system, they ought to fix it right away. And whatever other state or federal government has that only one layer should fix it so that there are two layers. We don't want things getting delayed, but we also don't want panic where a guy on a golf course thinks, well, at least I hit a really nice shot before I died, right?
Yeah.
So, but there's something fishy about this story. Look, I don't know, it's impossible to know. And there's the guy saying I'm the one who pressed the wrong button, but like it feels like it's out of Lost, right? Enter the numbers.
Yeah, it is a little weird, but on the other hand, Trump has the nuclear button on his desk and it's very big. And it works.
That actually gets him a Diet Coke, but
I know, I'm kidding. But look, actually, the point that I want to make is, I've seen a bunch of videos and listened to a bunch of messages that people have left on their loved ones' voicemail, and to be quite honest with you, I'm shocked at how calm people were, given that there was supposedly a missile threat and that they needed to take shelter. And then also, if a missile is headed for an island, or a group of islands, and you know that it could cause serious damage, just destroy those islands. Like, shelter where? Like, where are you supposed to go?
Yeah, I don't know if they've got shelters built in Hawaii because obviously Hawaii's been bombed before.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know that the guy on the golf course knows where his nearby shelter is. We haven't had a threat like that in a long, long time. The reason why I say it's a little fishy is Hawaii is the only place other than Guam, that has been mentioned by the North Koreans as potentially under attack. And then of all the states and all the different places, the one place where they pressed the wrong button saying there's an incoming missile is in Hawaii. Hell of a coincidence, right?
What do you think?
I don't know. I have no idea, and I'm not going to throw any theories out there. And maybe it was that they were getting prepared because of the North Korean threats.
Right, I actually did read that. You know, that they're just preparing given some of the rhetoric that we've been hearing from certain politicians.
Yeah, and so it's hard to believe that it's a coincidence, but it might be an innocent coincidence,
right?
I.e. getting ready, and then as they're getting ready, somebody makes a mistake, and that's the message we would have sent out if the North Koreans were attacking, but oops, you shouldn't have pressed that button. But for God's sake, make sure there's 2 people involved.
We got to take one more break. When we come back, Gallup just did a recent poll seeing whether or not Republicans are happy with the direction the country's going in. Guess how they feel.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll be right back.
I have decided that I'm going to get ripped. Okay.
What?
Okay.
Like physically?
Yeah. Okay. What? You don't believe me?
I 100% don't believe you.
I will get so ripped, here's my prediction, that someone at TYT will say, Cenk, you've got to stop working out.
We're tired of you winning.
So you don't believe me?
Cenk, you don't have time to do your daily duties for the main show.
Duties. I don't even have time for your daily duties. Because what you guys don't know is how great my muscles already are.
It's absolutely possible, but you can't have Leah run to the food truck to get you 2 different types of grilled cheeses with tater tots for lunch. You can't have that anymore.
Let's see what happens.
You also have to go to the gym regularly.
Let's see what happens. All I'm saying is, let's see what happens. Have I ever been wrong about a prediction? Almost never.
I just shot a clip. It's time sensitive and it needs to be edited right now.
Did anybody call for an editor?
Need this in an hour.
But you're an editor too.
Fuck you.
on the Young Turks. Cenk Uygur, Anna Kasparian with you guys. Let me read a couple of tweets for you. Pantera Bigatuda writes in, Democrats don't love to lose. They are paid to lose. Seems the same, but it's quite different. I hear you on that, brother. That's right. Jay Moya Goya says Democrats are literally controlled opposition. There's no point in that party unless there are some people who can see strategy. There are idiots running that party through and through. I refer you to the original tweet. Perhaps they're not so dumb. They just like the corruption as much as the Republicans do. They are dispiriting, that is for sure. By the way, I said I hear you, brother. I was on a plane today coming back from Oakland, and I was sitting next to a nun, and at some point I said, I hear you, sister. And I was like,
accurate.
All right, one last thing. Patrick says, Cenk, why are the Dems not demanding Chip 2? That's children's health insurance. Of course they should. They come with, and if you saw me talking about this a couple of weeks ago, I said they should have at least 3 demands. Because if you have only one demand, well, number one, they have 28 demands, you only have one. Think about it, idiot, right? Second of all, you have nowhere to go. It's binary. Either you win or they win. Whereas if you come in with 3 demands, even if you get 2 of them, they could claim victory, which is you want them to be able to claim victory in order to get a deal. They tell me that I'm not practical. They don't know negotiation at all. Or again, as our audience here points out, they purposely lose. They purposely go in with the worst fucking strategies. So should they demand Chip? Yes, DACA, Chip. I said net neutrality, enormously popular. Demand that Social Security and Medicare are going to be protected from budget cuts. Over 80% popularity. It's wonderful framing. It puts you on the right side of elections. It's easier to win, and you have more room to negotiate. So why would the Democrats do that? That would be smart.
The tax cuts that Republicans passed is deeply unpopular. Why are Democrats talking about that nonstop?
Because they love those tax cuts. Look, I know I beat up on Feinstein a lot, partly because, yes, it's true, because Allison Hartson's running, and Allison Hartson's a great progressive, and she's gonna kick Dianne Feinstein's ass and be the new senator in California. We're finally, after decades and decades, going to have a progressive senator in California. But Feinstein, she voted for Bush's tax cuts. She voted to end the estate tax. She's pretending to be against the Trump tax cuts. She goes on TV all the time. Why does she ever talk about the tax cuts? Because in reality, she loves those tax cuts. It just gave her family billions of dollars. She loves the corruption. So that's why she goes, oh, I will be voting no. They have enough votes, right? Because I would switch over in a second if they didn't have enough votes. They got enough votes, great. Oh, golly gee, Russia! Okay, and then when she fought a little bit, did you see that, the Fusion GPS thing when she released the testimony
they
on something super safe, it's not actual policy, right? And then they're like, Chuck Grassley got mad at her and she said, oh my God, I had a cold. I was having trouble with my mental facilities. The one time she disagreed with the Republicans, she apologized saying she's having trouble with her mental facilities. Throw all those bums out, throw them all out. We're gonna get to a story on that in a second.
I'd rather have senators that don't have issues with their mental facilities.
And presidents, yes.
All right, I also want to make a really exciting announcement for you guys. On January 23rd, Bernie Sanders will be having a town hall specifically on the issue of Medicare for All, a proposal that he has been fighting for quite some time. I am lucky enough to host that town hall and I'm super excited about it. But what's even more exciting is that you guys get to submit your questions for this town hall. So if you are interested in submitting a question so it could be considered to be included in this town hall, all you need to do is send an email with your 1-minute YouTube video to tytsubmission@gmail.com. So again, you have to send it in the form of a YouTube video. Make sure you upload it as an unlisted link, so it'll be private, it won't be public, but anyone who has the link can see it. So again, 1 minute long, unlisted link, send it to tytsubmission@gmail.com. We will then send you a form that has the terms and conditions that you have to sign. We cannot use your video unless you sign that, so please make sure you do sign it and send it back to us. And yeah, your video could be included in this town hall, and we really hope that you do submit your questions because we know you guys have some really smart questions to ask. And the topic is the state of healthcare in America. So again, send us your questions. We will certainly consider them, and I'm really looking forward to this town hall, January 23rd at 7 p.m. Eastern time.
So make sure you watch on Facebook.com/TheYoungTurks.
Yeah.
Okay, a couple of fun things. Number one, when I used to read those things about making videos,
Yeah.
I'd always be like, "No, I know making a YouTube video is hard because I'm older now,
Yeah.
right?" And I'm like, if I had to do it, I'd be like, "How do I make the video?" Right? Even though we're the first ever YouTube partner. Okay, but now I trust you guys know how to make videos.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Now the two cool parts are, one is that it's pretty cool that Anna's hosting. So you've seen all those town halls with Anderson Cooper and the MSNBC host, the Fox News host, and they all keep asking Bernie, are you a communist like Fidel Castro? Right? There won't be any questions like that. It's one of us who's hosting with Bernie Sanders, so which is great. And then it's pretty cool that you get to ask Bernie a question.
Yes.
That's legit. We're gonna take some of those videos. So participate, and this is why it's great to do it online as opposed to TV. God knows what process they go through on TV. We're just gonna try to pick the best questions there are. So go get them, be part of it, and then make sure you watch. By the way, we're gonna do all-day coverage. We're gonna do the regular show at 6 p.m. Eastern here. And then leading into, we're gonna do only 1 hour, leading into the town hall coverage at 7 o'clock. Anna will be in Washington doing that. We're here going to be in the studio. We're gonna watch the whole thing together, and afterwards we're gonna analyze it. So Facebook.com/TheYoungTurks and also YouTube.com/TheYoungTurks for the whole show, and make sure that you don't miss that coverage.
Gallup recently conducted a survey of Americans to figure out whether or not they are in favor of the direction that the United States is headed in. And unsurprisingly, this survey showed that there is even more division among Republicans and Democrats. Both parties completely disagree about whether or not they're in favor of the direction the country is going in. To give you an example, according to this Gallup survey, 6 in 10 Republicans, 61%, say they are satisfied with the way things are going in the country. The highest level of satisfaction recorded among the GOP rank and file since 2007. So it seems as though they're in favor of some of these policies that Trump has been pushing for, maybe even in favor of some of the rhetoric that he has been, putting out there in regard to race relations. Democrats, though, disagree. 7% of Democrats told pollsters they are satisfied with the direction of the country. So the vast majority of Democrats are unhappy. Now, if you look at the country as a whole, though, the majority of Americans are not happy with how things are going. Just 29% of Americans are satisfied with the direction of the country. Since Trump became president, those figures have ranged from 21% to 32%. Nearly 7 in 10 Americans, 69%, say that they are dissatisfied.
Okay, so a couple of important notes here. One is about the overall numbers, the other is about the pattern. So the overall numbers, don't be confused, are terrible. 29% of the country saying we're on the right path is not a good number. The Republicans keep fooling themselves that there's magic involved in Trump just because he beat Hillary Clinton, who was disastrously unpopular in the country. But in 2018, Trump's not even on the ballot. It's going to be all those Republicans trying to defend incredibly unpopular policies, and we're sitting there at a 29% and going in the right direction. Those are terrible numbers. And if you do the math on that, you're gonna get crushed. And by the way, it's not like Republicans don't know it, they do know it. That's why a record 30 Republicans have already announced they're running for the hills. They're retiring, they don't want to go up for the next election because they know they're gonna lose. So sometimes the mainstream media drives me crazy because they don't report these numbers as something that is really, really bad. I mean, you see the Republicans running from the building with their hair on fire, and they just say like, oh, it's just Trump, it's just Trump. But they never, ever criticize the Republican Party. So now, speaking of criticizing the Republican Party, 61% of Republican voters, I mean, they picked Trump. They had 17 choices. They took the most maniacal, the most hateful one out of the bunch, the biggest bully. That wasn't the, that wasn't the bug. That was the features. I keep telling you. And so they look at it and go, oh, he's calling these countries terrible places. He's calling these people that. He's calling those people that. Well, great. I like that. That's why I voted for him. So let's understand who the Republican voters are. They look at Trump and think mission accomplished.
So, okay, so I always, look, I find that so fascinating because, yes, I agree with you that the rhetoric is not something that they reject. It is something that they have embraced. It's something that was very prominent during the election, and they signed on for that. But if you look at the policies and what Trump promised, the coverage of Trump's policies are very favorable toward him, very generous toward him. But the reality is he hasn't kept up with the majority of his promises. The Affordable Care Act failed on that. The tax plan, deeply unpopular, even among those on the right, okay? Because everyone knows there are huge, huge tax cuts and handouts to corporations and the wealthiest people in the country. Okay, the border wall, nothing's been constructed, and Mexico's not paying for it, and he's hounding Congress about funding it, which is why the latest immigration proposal included $1.9 billion to fund the border wall. That's our taxpayer money going toward that nonsense, right? But again, hasn't built it yet. I mean, it's failure after failure after failure when it comes to legislation and policy, and I wonder whether or not they look at those failures at all, if it's just the lure of his hateful rhetoric that keeps them going.
No, that's two great points. So one, we should never forget that Trump said a billion times during the campaign that the Mexicans were going to pay for the wall. So this is a good time to think about and talk about it because, hey guys, what happened? I thought, like, if I'm in a budget negotiation and I'm a Democrat, I'm going to say, well, no, that's okay. I'm quoting your president. Trump said that we don't have to pay for the wall. So I'm not going to put anything in the budget for it. He said that he was going to magically have the Mexicans pay for it. So have Mexico send the money. I'm done with that. Let's move on, right? So of course they know that the president's an idiot and a liar, but then that asks the questions of Republican voters. I thought your tough guy was going to get the Mexicans to pay for it. Isn't he a loser? Isn't he an incompetent liar loser who was lying the whole time, or is a buffoon and didn't know what the hell he was talking about? Which one is it? Was he a liar or was he a buffoon? Because the Mexicans are certainly not paying for that wall. It's coming out of your pocket, and they're never going to be able to build the whole thing. Okay, now the second point is what you pointed out there, the incompetence. Actually, his lowest numbers were in October because the tax plan had not passed, so he had gotten nothing done, nothing. So Republicans were super pissed. Independents thought this guy's incompetent. Democrats didn't like him anyway. So now his numbers have picked up a little bit. Stock market is booming. So the rich are getting richer. Congratulations. And on top of that, they got one thing done. So for example, with independents, he was down at 20%. Wow, 20% with independents down in October. Now the pattern is he's back up to 31% with independents, which is a terrible number. Only 31% of independents think that the country's headed in the right direction. So yes, at least that one tax cut, even though it is deeply unpopular, they were like, oh, he got one thing done. He got one thing done, right? And Democrats, by the way, when you're helping him fund his wall, you should think about that. Don't help him get other things done, you knuckleheads.
Exactly.
The things that Americans don't want anyway. You think the wall is popular? It's not. Okay, you think DACA is unpopular, you're an idiot. The DREAM Act just insists on a clean bill. It's 70% popular in the country, including a majority of Republicans, but they have no political sense at all. Anyway, numbers are real. 2018, I told you from the very beginning, is going to be a great mystery, and I don't know which way it's going to go, but every day the jury will start to come in a little bit more and a little bit more. Now we're only a couple of weeks into the year, but this is part of the jury, and the jury just came in with a note saying, we really, really don't like Trump. And that could affect the 2018 elections in a big way. Another part of the jury that came in, Darrell Issa last week ran for the hills. 30 Republicans not going to run again. These are really bad signs for the Republicans. So 2018 starting to look, it's just the beginning, but starting to look like it might be a bloodbath for the Republicans. Don't lose sight of that. It's hard not to get frustrated that 61% of Republicans think, nailed it, right? But the great majority of the country does not agree with them.
Now, we have some other news when it comes to the upcoming midterm elections. Chelsea Manning is running for a Senate seat in Maryland. In fact, she has released her first campaign ad, and we want to show it to you. Take a look.
I'm Chelsea Manning, and I approve this message. We live in trying times. Times of fear. Of suppression. Of hate. We don't need more or better leaders. We need someone willing to fight. We need to stop asking them to give us our rights. They won't support us. They won't compromise. We need to stop expecting that our systems will somehow fix themselves. We need to actually take the reins of power from them. We need to challenge them at every level. We need to fix this. We don't need them anymore. We can do better. You're damn right we got this.
She will be running as a Democrat, and she's likely to primary the two-term senator in Maryland, Ben Cardin. He is doing well in the polls, so it'll be a tough primary fight, but I'm curious to see how it plays out. It's really interesting.
Okay, so I know what conventional wisdom is. Chelsea Manning's a radical, and she spent a lot of time in prison for giving away state secrets. Gonna be Ben Cardin. Ben Cardin is a very well-respected senator. He's a solid Democrat, and he's popular in the polls. I don't agree. So I think Chelsea Manning is an American hero. Is she radical? Goddamn right she is. Are these radical times? Yes. So if Ben Cardin is playing patty cakes with Trump, and he is, he can come out there and say, well, I mean, I voted no on the tax cuts. I voted no on a lot of the Trump policies. He didn't need my vote, by the way. Where are you, Ben Cardin? I got no particular animus for Cardin. I don't know him from Adam. It's not personal. I just know that these Democrats en masse are terrible. And so these are the same guys who lost the Senate to the Republicans in the first place when they have most of the country on their side. I mean, that's a fact in terms, not just the polling, but in the data on the number of people who vote for Democrats versus Republicans in the Senate. I know that it, of course, has to do with how the states are apportioned as well. But they keep losing to them, right? So can Chelsea Manning win? Yeah, I'm not unaware that it's a long shot. But yes, these are different times. So everybody on TV will snicker. Chelsea Manning, right? Like, no. She is not a trusted member of the establishment. In fact, the establishment poo-poos her. But here's what Chelsea Manning has that other startups and challengers don't have. Tremendous name recognition. So don't count her out. Or if you're the Democrat establishment, please count her out. Yeah, oh, you got this. Don't worry, Democratic establishment. Don't try to fight against her. Don't spend any resources. We'll see what happens. Now, people will say she'll have a hard time raising money. I don't know about that. Small donor money is coming in fast and furious. I mean, look, Allison Hartz is running against Dianne Feinstein in California. She outraised Feinstein and another Democrat in the race among small donors. Yeah, they get funded by giant corporations. That is no longer an advantage, that is a disadvantage. So Chelsea Manning is not gonna get corporate money, okay? Of course, but I'd be surprised if she didn't raise a ton of small money.
Right.
So the more people on TV call her radical, I think there's a good chance the better she'll do. And you can't go against guys like Ben Cardin or Republican incumbents with weak sauce. You can't come in with, I'm a shade more progressive than Ben Cardin. Then what's the point? You might as well have Ben Cardin, right? Chelsea Manning is coming from a completely different direction, going, you know what? No, this is not, look, here's the parts I loved. You saw it there in the ad, but let me read it to you. We don't need more or better leaders. We need someone willing to fight. That is gonna resonate. Like these grassroots, small donors, progressives all across the country, I think they're gonna light a fire, man. I really do. Now, is Manning at the end gonna beat Cardin? I don't know, and I guess I'm the only one in the country who doesn't know among the pundits, right? Because they will all say, no way, no way. You take 100-to-1 bet at this point, and I would take that bet all day long, okay? Because it's not, those are not the correct odds. The reality is she does have a chance. The other thing she said in that, we need to stop expecting that our system will somehow fix themselves. We need to actually take the reins of power from them. I mean, how many times have I said about Wolfpack? They're not coming for us, we're coming for them. Congress isn't going to magically cure itself and go, oh my God, you're right, we all got elected through a corrupt system where we took legalized bribes. They're not gonna say that. The only way you fix the system is you beat them. You beat them. So whether she wins or not, and I actually think she can. I love that she's running. I love that she's fighting. I love that she's taking on Cardin. Primaries don't hurt any given party. The Republicans have been primarying the living hell out of each other, and they keep getting stronger and stronger and stronger, and more victories. Primaries help, and if you're a progressive who doesn't believe in the corporate Democrats, they help a ton. You don't get stuck with the choice of lesser of two evils. Look, we said it during the Bernie Sanders run. I'm saying it now. I'm saying it to you well ahead of time. Primaries are everything. Shock the world. Go show up in primaries. While the Cardin, who's excited about Cardin? Is there people in Maryland being like, Cardin? Cardin, right?
I didn't know much about Cardin until now, to be honest with you. But my commentary isn't about whether or not Chelsea Manning has a chance. I don't know. I like the message, but for me, what stands out is the fact that she's so resilient, right? And there is actual proof behind what she's saying. She is a fighter. I mean, think about how long she was in solitary confinement. Think about how long she was abused by the system, literally physically abused, okay? In solitary confinement, completely naked, over the fact that she was a whistleblower and told us the truth about what our government was wrongfully doing in other countries like Iraq. And so that didn't break her spirit. She actually fought through all of that, not just for herself, but so she could eventually get out, which, thanks to Obama granting her clemency, she was able to get out early. And now she wants to serve the country as a senator. I mean, I feel like most people, myself included, would not want to be in the public limelight at all following that kind of experience. But she is a fighter, and for me, that says something. Okay,
last two things. So by the way, coincidentally, today, we're gonna have Brianna Westbrook on Rebel Headquarters. So Rebel Headquarters is now the show that comes on after the Young Turks. Young Turks is live 6 to 8 p.m. every day, youtube.com/The Young Turks. And then at 8:05, we have Rebel Headquarters. Brianna Westbrook is also transgender. They keep saying Chelsea Manning's now in a lot of the articles the only person running who's transgender for Congress. No, Brianna Westbrook's also transgender, also running. She's a Justice Democrat and she's in Arizona. She's running to take the despicable Trent Frank's seat. He's now retiring and out of Congress, obviously. So we'll hear from her at 8:05 p.m. Eastern today. Okay, but last thing on Chelsea Manning. Look, she does the Apache releases, among the many things she released was the Apache helicopter video. It showed that we killed journalists and then killed the first responders who had come in to bring them to the hospital.
Yeah.
No one got punished for that. Instead, they punished Chelsea Manning for revealing the truth. And then they try to break her in all the ways that Anna described, including solitary confinement, which and the stripping her naked, and all that stuff is torture under international law. We tortured her. They stuffed her in a hole and they put her in prison for all that time. And she comes out fighting like this.
I know, it's amazing.
No. That's why you think she can't win, you're wrong. And when I see those senators, and they're all so old and decrepit, and they got all those corporate patches. I'm funded by ExxonMobil and Lockheed Martin. Oh, defense, I'm so good on defense. Right? Let's start more wars, right? Yep. You know what I see politically? I see dead men walking. All those ghosts walking around the Senate like they own the place. That isn't your house, that's our house. And I think when fighters like Chelsea come out, they can shock the world. So I got news for you guys. You thought you were coming for Chelsea Manning, and for a while you did, and for a while you put her in a really dark place. But she's come out now, and she's coming for you. If you're a progressive and you can't get behind that, go back home. You know what I say? I say, just like Chelsea, we come out fighting. They're not coming for us. We're coming for them in the primaries. Primary the living hell out of these Democrats, and let's take over the party. That's a ghost ship. Let's board it and let's take it.
All right, one more story before we go to break. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has given a speech in regard to Trump's policies when it comes to the conflict between the Israelis and Palestinians. And he has some rather aggressive language for Trump, rightfully so. He said the following. He, Trump, said in a tweet he won't give money to the Palestinians because they rejected the negotiations. Shame on you. When did we reject the talks? Where is the negotiation that we rejected? Now, remember, Trump is claiming that he will negotiate a peaceful deal between the Israelis and Palestinians. But while he claims that he's going to do that, he has done a number of provocative things that actually lead to more tensions between the Israeli government and Palestinians. Abbas continues to say, we can say no to anyone if things are related to our fate and our people, and now we have said no to Trump. We told him the deal of the century was the slap of the century, but we will slap back. Okay, so what are the concerns of the Palestinians? What is he referring to specifically? So first of all, obviously, the fact that Trump had named Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, then the United States, of course, is planning on moving its embassy to Jerusalem. Also, the US has requested to halt payments to roughly 35,000 families of Palestinians killed and wounded in the conflict with Israel. So those three major things have led to more tension between the United States and the Palestinians. And it's much less likely that anyone is going to buy into any kind of deal or negotiation brokered by the United States. And so he's actually causing more harm in that region of the world than solving some of the issues there. Also, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has welcomed Trump's tough line toward the Palestinians, while also pushing forward with more settlement construction on lands sought by the Palestinians.
All right, so a number of things here. First of all, as usual, Trump is lying. The Palestinians didn't walk away from any peace deals. The peace deals were ended in 2014 when Netanyahu said, no, I'm not going to give them any of the things that they want. So the right wing in Israel, not all of Israel, the right wing of Israel keeps saying no, no, no. Now, on top of that, yes, these are slaps across the face. And then they think, oh, yes, well, we'll break them. And then they'll come to the table and then we'll give them scraps. So apparently the Saudis, who are great allies of Israel, they pretend to be not allies publicly, like, oh, golly gee, Israel, we are the Muslim protectors. Saudis and the Israelis are working together against Iran and the Shia all across the world, okay? So the Saudis are apparently going to the Palestinians and going, take the scraps, okay? Yep. So the deal is you get parts of the West Bank, but you don't get East Jerusalem, and you don't get the Gaza Strip, and you don't get to control your own borders.
That's right, so Israel would control the border and they would lose a lot of territory, a lot of land, and who would take that deal? Especially if the United States is supposed to be the only country that's brokering this deal between the two sides. They don't want that either. They want other United Nations countries to be part of the negotiations, to be part of this deal, for good reason, you know?
So we're supposed to be the neutral arbiters of this peace deal. Neutral arbiters. Okay, so we're the ones who pushed to move our embassy to Jerusalem, saying, no, Israel owns it all, so we don't care what the Palestinians think, we don't care about East Jerusalem, that's where we're putting our embassy. And then when the UN said overall, no, that's not a good idea, now Trump is saying in this story, no, I'm gonna take away half their money. Now, our UN ambassador is Nikki Haley. She plans to run for higher office. And in America, unfortunately, we have become one of the most corrupt countries in the world. So we legalize bribery. So in the rest of the world, you actually have to bribe people and you risk going to jail if you're caught. In America, we said, no, it's now PAC donations, it's campaign contributions, it's independent expenditures. So one person can buy all these politicians. So the Mercer family bought Ted Cruz, then he was a loser, so they switched over and bought Donald Trump. They had given $13 million to Cruz, and they gave same neighborhood to Donald Trump. The biggest donor in politics right now is actually Sheldon Adelson. He is also a right-winger here in America, hates the unions, wants to crush them, wants to lower his taxes, and is a right-winger in the case of Israel. And so he says, look, if you do whatever I tell you to do, I'm gonna give you, like he gave $25 million to Newt Gingrich. Reported to have given a similar amount to Donald Trump. So Nikki Haley knows, hey, if I kiss Sheldon Adelson's ass, I might get 10, 20, $30 million for my political ambitions. She was the only one, even among Trump advisors, who said, let's cut money to the Palestinians. Rex Tillerson, former CEO of ExxonMobil, was like, that's a really bad idea. It's gonna destabilize the Middle East. I don't think that's gonna help. Mad Dog Jim Mattis, the defense secretary, was like, guys, we're gonna put our troops in danger. We're gonna put the whole world in danger. Let's not do it. Nikki Haley was like, nope, I don't care. I've got donors who are gonna give me a lot of money. So that was the first person to say, no, I want to cut funding to Palestinian refugees who are suffering, right? And then Netanyahu, every article says Netanyahu came out and said, I agree, you should cut funding to the Palestinians. And they're like, well, that settles it. That settles it. What does Netanyahu have to do with us? He's not the leader of our country. He's a leader of an allied country. Great, we take it under advisement, okay? Trudeau says something, we take it under advisement, right? But he doesn't decide our policy, but unfortunately, he does. He does. So our new policy is Mattis and Tillerson could barely talk them into, let's just cut half of the funding for the refugees, not all. Why? Why is Mad Dog Jim Mattis, who's deeply Republican and conservative, saying that? He's like, guys, a lot of the refugee camps are in Jordan. Jordan is an incredibly important ally for the United States. If you've got those refugee camps boiling over, who are they gonna boil over to? They're gonna boil over to our friend and ally, King Abdullah, okay? You might not like him, you might think this or that, but that guy's barely got keeping a lid on the Palestinians. Now you blow that lid off, you idiots. It's not just gonna hurt America, it's gonna hurt Israel. You're gonna have millions of angry Palestinians and you give them no outs. You give them, look, the money you give the Palestinians, it's actually kind of both in some ways generous, in some ways devious, because you get folks hooked on the money, like the Palestinian Authority. Hamas is not hooked on the money because obviously we're not gonna give any money to Hamas. Palestinian Authority gets money from the US and they get hooked on the money. Now when you take the money away, they got nothing to lose. So now the refugee camps have nothing to lose. Soon Palestinian Authority will have nothing to lose. And the Palestinian Authority, he's not just telling you that because he's angry at you. He's saying, idiot, you're going to empower the radicals like Hamas. So they're gonna turn to them. Now you're forcing me to yell at you because otherwise everybody's gonna go to Hamas. These idiot right wings, maybe they're not stupid.
You think Trump knows what Hamas is? Do you think Trump, but that's part of the problem. So Nikki Haley might understand the nuances of this issue, maybe. But you think Trump does? Trump is the perfect corporate puppet, right? He is the perfect donor puppet.
So if you ask Trump what Hamas is, and please somebody ask him, Jesus, do your jobs, right? Ask him about policy for once. If you ask Trump about Hamas, he'll say, what do you mean? I like Hamas, I use it for dips, I like it. Okay, of course I know what it is. Who would not know what Hamas is? I have it with my taco bowl, okay? So anyway, last thing, guys. Look, the reason why I said maybe they're not idiots is because right-wingers, whether it's here or in Israel, they both literally profit from war and politically profit from war. Because when war happens, Netanyahu's ratings go way up. When war happened, George W. Bush was very unpopular, won the election, barely so in 2004, but why? He ran the whole campaign, I was there, I covered it, ran the whole campaign on don't switch horses in midstream. We're in the middle of a war, you gotta stay with the leader, okay?
Yeah, the fear mongering, and America bought it.
Right-wing 101 tactic to create war so that you have to then seek shelter from the strong right-wingers. And what are they doing here? They're saying to the Palestinians, you're going to get nothing. Your Jerusalem, which you care so much about, we're never going to give it to you. You're not going to have any borders. We're not going to give you anything. And then we're going to take your money away. And then we're going to slap you across the face. They're basically saying, please, please riot. Please do terrorism. Please lob missiles. Please do that so that we can start a war so that my popularity can go back up. And if Israelis die in the meanwhile, if we die in the meanwhile, they don't care. That's their plan. It's not an accident, that's the purpose. These people are monsters. So this is a horrific plan. And when the Middle East gets destabilized, don't say we didn't warn you. That was their plan all along.
Let's take a break. We'll be back.
Congratulations to you, the Young Turks, and other digital media for breaking through barriers in providing information to people that we don't see on corporate television.
A really great idea that you had. And you noticed that mainstream press had no interest in covering this policy. They didn't want to talk about Medicare for all for whatever reason.
Well, we know what the reason is. We know it's not whatever reason. You turn on television today, what are you going to see? The pharmaceutical industry running these crazy ads. I would be nervous about taking these drugs with all of the side effects, but that's another story.
Right.
But they are dependent on advertising from the pharmaceutical industry and the insurance companies.
You're right. And just as our politicians are bought, mainstream media is experiencing the same type of corruption. So there is a way to get around that, and that is independent media.
Really, for the first time, I think, we are going to have a town meeting devoted toward a better understanding of what Medicare for All is, to answer some of the very good questions that you raised. We're going to hear from physicians, we hear from economists, we'll hear from people who may be critical of the idea and listen to their concerns. But we will spend a significant amount of time talking about why the United States is the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all, while we spend twice as much per capita for a dysfunctional healthcare system. So that's one thing. But here's the second thing that excites me very much, is I have believed for a very, very long time that not that corporate media is fake news. That's not what it's about. It's not that they lie about this or that. But there are major areas where, for a variety of reasons, mostly economic, they choose not to focus. All right? They're not going to focus too much about income and wealth inequality because the people who own their networks are in the 1%. And they're not going to focus on an issue like Medicare for all because of their dependency on pharmaceutical industry advertising and insurance company advertising. This could be the very first step in bringing millions of people into serious discussion about the serious issues facing our country with the time that we need to really go into depth about them. So I want to thank the Young Turks.
All right, back on the Young Turks. Look, we got a great Rebel headquarters coming up for you guys in about 30 minutes. Also on the show today is Erica Andiola. She is the political director of Our Revolution, and she's actually fighting for a Clean Dream Act. We were talking about the Dream Act earlier in the show, and she's going to tell you how you could participate and how she's leading that fight for the Clean Dream Act. So that's going to be great. That's at 8:05 p.m. Eastern right here. Santos Juante writes in, you would think with all these Republicans not running or retiring from office, Dems would smell the blood in the water. But they do, but their sense of that is, great, we're doing everything right, just steady as we go, right? Lipschitz writes in, can TYT stick a microphone in some of the Dems' faces and ask them why they aren't fighting harder?
Yeah.
We're trying. You know, one of the Democrats we did that to was Al Franken, and he ran, right? And he kept waiting. He kept his powder dry. Now he just took his dry powder home. So look, whatever you think of how he resigned, that's a different issue. But for the time that he was in office, it would have been nice if he was a giant fighter for us.
There are two phrases that get used a lot in politics. One of them is keeping his powder dry. I don't know where it comes from, but it's weird and it makes me uncomfortable. The second one is full-throated defense.
Yes, that is definitely awkward.
Just don't like those phrases, but they get used all the time.
Well, in the postgame, maybe I'll explain the powder dry one. And you know what? So there's a story, I don't know if we're gonna get to it, about Mandalay Bay, the shooting in Vegas.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but you know, I just stayed at Mandalay Bay in Vegas, and I have a really interesting thing to tell you about the shooting based on what I observed there. So yeah, we'll do that in the postgame today. That's for the members, tytnetwork.com/join to become a member, okay? One last tweet for you guys. Jeff Horton says, stock market up, number of immigrants coming to the US down, Trump not impeached yet, conservatives are happier than pigs in shit, or in a shithole. So yes, those are all true. But don't get discouraged because
there is a balm in Gilead to make the wounded whole. There is a balm in Gilead to heal the sin-sick soul.
God standeth behind the Demonon, watching above his own. All right, what's next?
Okay. A new report indicates that Congress members spent a whopping $300,000 to settle sexual harassment allegations and discrimination accusations against them since 2003. Now, this is a new report that was put out by the Committee on House Administration, and here is what they found. No names were mentioned, unfortunately, but nearly $300,000 in taxpayer funds has been spent to settle 13 claims against members of Congress or their offices since 2003 that include sexual harassment or sex discrimination. These accusations include 3 cases involving sex discrimination that total more than $27,000. Also, between 2008 and 2012, the Treasury Fund paid more than $174,000 to settle 8 cases. Between 2013 and 2017, 2 cases involving sex discrimination or harassment were settled, totaling $91,000. Now, the majority of the $91,000 was paid out because of accusations lodged against Farenthold, which we covered earlier on the Young Turks. One of these settlements was for $84,000. That was the Blake Farenthold accusation from 2014. A woman who was his former communications director accused him of sexual harassment.
Farenthold had said at the time, oh, it's okay, I'm gonna pay that $84,000. Well, number one, only after you got caught. Before, you were perfectly happy to let taxpayers pay for it while you pretended to be a champion of saving taxpayer money as a Republican. And that was his big thing. I save taxpayers money. I mean, unless I sexually harass someone, in which case you pay for it. Then he got caught with his hand in the cookie jar and he said, no, I'm gonna pay for it. I think it was JR, our producer, JR Jackson, who said, no, he won't. Yeah. And now we find out, No, not exactly.
He's waiting to see what the outcome of this investigation will be and how Congress will move forward in, having something put forward, like the right, I don't even know how you call it, like the right way to approach these issues as opposed to having people sign non-disclosure agreements, using taxpayer money to settle these settlements. Can you imagine? I mean, look, Republican representatives, Republican members of Congress lose their minds over the SNAP program, which gives the poorest people in this country, the poorest families in this country, scraps so they can feed their kids, right? They lose their minds over that. But Representative Farenthold used $84,000 in taxpayer money to settle a sexual harassment case involving his own communications person. Like, can you imagine if one poor family got a one-time lump sum payment of $84,000 in taxpayer money? That would be the scandal of a lifetime in America. They would not stop talking about it. This is absolutely ridiculous. You got accused of sexual harassment, you pay for it. Why are you using taxpayer money to do it?
So there's two different things here, guys. So are settlements, do settlements sometimes happen? Yes, okay. And if you're a congressman, some of the settlements are as low as $7,000. You might pay that just so that you don't have bad PR. Right or wrong, it might affect your race and you might say, I didn't do it, but it's $7,000 and I can't withstand that kind of damage, right? And by the way, are all the cases true? Nobody knows because they're secret, right? And due process matters, right? So having said all that, why are we paying for their settlements?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, okay, you want to do settlements? I hear you, brother. You want to do non-disparagement? I know that that's not in vogue, but I think that there is validity to that. I think it makes sense in some instances. But why are we paying for it? Especially if you're Farenthold and you talked about the bums on welfare, and you talked about this and you talked about that, and how you're going to lower the deficit. And then you gave $1.5 trillion to the rich in your tax cuts just a second ago. So your donors are thrilled, you're thrilled because you're also rich. But he's one of the richest members of Congress. But for a sexual harassment settlement, he's like, oh, no, I'm not paying for it. Taxpayers, you guys are the suckers. We're the ones who tricked you so that I can get in here and get myself a giant tax cut. You pay for my sexual harassment settlement.
I'm just tired of the way the discourse in the country goes when it comes to using our taxpayer money to benefit us, right? Anytime that money is used to benefit us, whether it's in helping those who are poor, with food stamps, or making sure that the entitlements that we paid into are going to be something that we can take advantage of, like Medicare and Social Security when we're ready to retire. Those are all controversial issues that are always being debated, right? We paid into it. It's money that we pay the federal government to ensure that we're taken care of. But that taxpayer money goes toward wars that we shouldn't be starting, right? Preemptive war. It goes toward nonsense like this, where we're paying settlements for lawmakers. I don't care if they're Democrats or Republicans. Taxpayer money should not be spent on settling their issues, okay? Whenever it comes to helping out those who are privileged, we never have the debate.
So preach it, teach it. I couldn't agree more. One last thing on it. It's even worse than that, because when, for example, Bernie Sanders says, let's do college for all. So that's the American dream, that your kids can have the same chance as rich parents' kids, right? And you go, they don't even debate it. They just snicker. They're like, that's totally unrealistic.
That's exactly what happened during the Democratic primaries. That's exactly what happened.
And all the Anderson Coopers, they all snickered. Trump now calls CNN liberal. Go back and watch those debates. They laughed at Bernie Sanders. You want to help the middle class's kids? That's not realistic. Now, the Iraq war, nobody snickered, and we spent trillions. We threw trillions of dollars. We burned it, and all those people died. And now these sexual harassment settlements, that's okay. That helps the powerful and the elite. Nobody snickers. But you want to help middle class live their American dream. So we can't stand your priorities, and yet the people on TV and the people in Washington can't figure out why people in the country are angry. Like all the millionaires we know are super happy. Yeah, we know.
All right, moving on to other news. Actress Eliza Dushku has disclosed a pretty terrible thing that happened to her when she was only 12 years old and on the set of True Lies, a movie that she starred in. This is a story that she has kept to herself and to a couple close loved ones for a long time. But recently she felt comfortable enough to come forward and share her account regarding sexual assault by Joel Kramer, who was the stunt person on the movie set. So I'm gonna read portions of what she had posted on her Facebook page. It was a very long post, but these are the relevant portions of what she said. When I was 12 years old, while filming True Lies, I was sexually molested by Joel Kramer, one of Hollywood's leading stunt coordinators. He disappeared. Now she says that he had earned the trust of her parents and then convinced the parents that he was going to take her out to sushi and just have fun, nothing crazy.
And then other people would be around and they should be going swimming with the other stunt actors in the movie, etc.
And so the parents trusted him, and he did the exact opposite of that. He took her to his home, and then this is what she says happened. He disappeared in the bathroom and emerged naked, bearing nothing but a small hand towel held flimsy at his midsection. I remember how he laid me down on the bed, wrapped me with his gigantic, withering body, and rubbed all over me. He spoke these words, "You're not going to sleep on me now, sweetie. Stop pretending you're sleeping," as he rubbed harder and faster against my catatonic body. She also writes, when he was finished, he suggested, "I think we should be careful about telling anyone." He meant I was 12 and he was 36. And I remember how soon after, when my tough adult female friend in whom I had confided my terrible secret on the condition of a trade that she let me drive her car around the Hollywood Hills came out to the set to visit and face him, later that very same day, by no small coincidence, I was injured from a stunt gone wrong at the Harrier set. With broken ribs, I spent the evening in the hospital. So she's alleging that since she told her close friend about what happened, he retaliated by allowing her to get injured on the set while performing stunts. Yeah. Now he denies it. I'll give you his statement in just a minute, but this is disgusting.
Yeah, so he says, oh no, she was just bruised in that incident. So all of this is important. And boy, if after someone who tried to protect her yelled at him, he then allowed her to get injured. It doesn't matter if it's bruises or a broken rib. And that is horrific, but it doesn't really matter. Like, that portion is extra, right? He molested a 12-year-old girl, if you believe this story. And that's, I mean, we're done, right? That's not close. Now, look, if these were criminal charges, and I don't know if statute of limitations is run on it or not, we do due process in this country, okay? And he vehemently denies it. But boy, this sounds enormously credible, and there is backup after backup. So let's give you the denial and then the backup to her story.
So Joel Kramer did end up getting fired by World Production Agency. Also, he says, these are outlandish, manipulated lies. I never sexually molested her. I think she's making this up in her imagination. Now, if you read her entire account on Facebook, which I highly recommend you do, it's incredibly detailed, and she talks about a number of people that she did confide in at the time that it happened. Now, the one person that she specifically mentioned in that statement was Sue Booth Forbes, who was her guardian on set. Since she was a minor, she has to have a guardian on set, and that's exactly who she was. And Dushku did confide in her at the time, told her what happened. She was the person who came forward and told people on the set, those who had some authority, about what had occurred. And as a result, no one did anything. And it led to Joel Kramer allegedly retaliating against Dushku on the set. Now, Sue Booth Forbes did corroborate this account, but did not name the specific people that she told.
Yeah, so let me give more background too. So Kramer, I read his statement. It just denies it 100%. Lies, lies, lies. I can't believe this. I'm being persecuted, etc. Now, I think there are some people who are being persecuted in the news these days. I don't think Kramer is one of them. That's my opinion. But we gave you his statement, and now you turn to Sue Booth Forbes, and she is awfully specific. She says she went to higher ups. They complained about it. Other people knew about it. They also complained about it. But the higher ups, and why? Why are they protecting this stunt coordinator? Well, it turns out he worked on all the Schwarzenegger movies. Now, that doesn't mean that Schwarzenegger knew about the allegations. James Cameron, who was the director of True Lies, says he didn't know, that if he had not known, there would have been no mercy, okay? And he believes Dushku, and he's very adamant about that, okay? Now, I don't know, and nobody knows who actually knew on that set and didn't know on that set. Actually, Sue Booth Forbes might know, but she didn't name those names, and I don't want to get into that. But she says, no, we definitely told people, he definitely did it. And she said, here's another quote, Joel Kramer did what Eliza said he did. This is again from Sue Booth Forbes. He is a pedophile, and he must face the consequences. So there's the actress friend she told, her mom, Sue Booth Forbes, and according to Forbes, other people on the set.
Her older brother as well.
And that was all not recently, but 25 years ago, okay? And the accident that she had on the set, the day that they confronted Kramer, is in the records. She was taken to the hospital, there's no question about that. Now, nobody knows, other than those two, what happened in that hotel room, but why would a 12-year-old girl come out and take on this powerful person who's good friends with the main star on the set? Out of nowhere, and insist on it.
Yeah.
And then, but by the way, never publicly came forward. It's not like she had an axe to grind. It's not like she had an agenda. Anyway, we're over discussing this. This seems like an incredibly clear case.
Also, look, she just came out with her allegations, and I just want to really emphasize the fact that it's taken her such a long time to do it, because when she initially did come out, she did come out to family members, and they didn't know how to handle it because it was such a taboo topic at the time. So think about how far we've come in all this time, since she was 12, but also how there's still a way to go, because even though this Me Too movement has been going on for a couple months now, she still didn't feel comfortable coming forward until very recently. And it's a scary thing to do. It's scary to come forward and talk about what you've gone through, especially when you initially told people it got brushed under the rug. There was one part of her statement where she talked about how after the apartment thing, they were both in a cab together, and he had her sit on his lap, and that the cab driver was looking at her like they were making eye contact the entire time because she was scared. The cab driver knew something was wrong, but no one came to her, to her defense. No one came to help her. It's just crazy.
And think about the retaliation. I mean, the accident happens the day that they make it public, at least on the set. And she's 12 years old. You think that they might have been able to ruin her career? Of course. It took a quarter of a century to gather up the courage. Now imagine how many times that happened to children like her and to women, and by the way, to guys from people like Kevin Spacey. So this has been an enormous problem for a long period of time. And so in this case, the liberation continues.
We got to take a break. Let's come back and we'll have some more news for you.
back on the Young Turks. One quick tweet. Kelly Kerr says, when we talk about mental fitness for president, what about the voters? My parents have both been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, and they both still have a driver's license, and they're both still registered to vote. Kelly, we can't go that far. I can't get into your parents' mental status. But yes, some older voters do have issues, but not most. The overwhelming majority are perfectly fine. Yes, they do vote for Republicans to cut their own Social Security and Medicare, but that's a different issue. Okay, so our members of the day are Frank Barella and Kim Ney. And in the members only post game for you guys, we do have a number of stories, including one that is about to be relevant for the Mandalay Bay story that we're going to give you guys, tytnetwork.com/join. And remember, it's Martin Luther King Day, and we are having a 30% off on all these great shirts, including MLK quotes, and I love those shirts. All right, what's next?
Journalists have been fighting to unseal documents related to the investigation of the mass shooting that took place in Las Vegas. And luckily, they were able to unseal some of those documents. And we have found some new information regarding the shooter's longtime girlfriend and also some communications he had, although it's unclear who he was communicating with specifically. Now, Mary Lou Danley was in the Philippines at the time of the shooting. If you could recall, the shooting unfortunately ended the lives of 58 people. The shooter then killed himself. Now, when it comes to Mary Lou Danley, she was in the Philippines, but there was some social media activity that took place immediately after the shooting that is suspicious, right? Now, she has not been charged with anything. She's not even a suspect according to the FBI. But here's the information we know based on these unsealed documents. She made changes to her Facebook account's privacy and personal settings at 12:30 a.m., about 2.5 hours after the first volley of bullets rained down on people attending a music festival on the Las Vegas Strip. Now, at 2:46 a.m., her account was deleted entirely. But it wasn't until nearly an hour after that, 3:30 a.m., that police had released Paddock's name to the public. So before the name went public, she had already completely deleted her Facebook account. It appeared that she was trying to conceal the fact that she was in a relationship with him. Obviously, her social media account made that very apparent.
Yeah, so there's things we know and things we don't know. And I can't stand it when people are not logical. So did she know that Paddock might have been the shooter? Absolutely. Because his name is not released till 3:30 a.m. She's deleting things left and right at 12:30 a.m., 3 hours before that. No one else knows it's Stephen Paddock at that point. She then obliterates her accounts at 2:46 a.m., 45 minutes before the killer's name is ever released. Now, does that mean she knew for a fact that it was him? No, but she obviously suspected heavily that it was him, enough to nuke her accounts. Does she know exactly what he was going to do? No, not necessarily. And police have not arrested her yet. So, and they have questioned her several times. So by the way, I think that's the right way to handle it. If I'm the cops, I question her several times.
Right, and so look, I'm not investigating this. I don't know all the facts. We just know what recently got released. But yeah, it definitely does look suspicious, especially considering the fact that she's been telling authorities that she knew nothing about this at all. She had no idea.
She clearly knew something.
Something, exactly, but we don't know exactly what that is. Now, there were some exchanges between Paddock and another email account, although it's unclear who the other email account belongs to. So exchanges that took place 3 months before the shooting. So there was an email account at centralpark1@live.com, sent an email to centralpark4804@gmail.com, which read, try an AR before you buy. We have a huge selection located in the Las Vegas area. Later that day, an email was received back from Central Park 4804 to Central Park 1 that read, we have a wide variety of optics and ammunition to try. Lastly, Central Park 1 sent an email to Central Park 4804 that read, for a thrill, try out bump fire ARs with a 100-round magazine.
And he did. So look, I'm going to talk about this more in the post-game, tytnetwork.com/join, because I was just in Mandalay Bay. I saw where he fired into. The amount of people he killed from that distance is amazing. And the amount of preparation he had was unreal. And he snuck 24 different guns into there. There is something very suspicious about this story. And we certainly have not begun to hear all the details yet. So hold for more, because this is a really weird story. All right, we gotta go. Bye-bye. Back on the Young Turks, Rebel headquarters. So listen, guys, this show is going to feature progressives all the way through 2018, and I hope all the way through 2020. And we've got a great number of different progressives for you guys now in all sorts of different races, national and local. Some working on issues, some working on campaigns. A little bit later in the show, we're going to talk to Erica Andiola. She's one of the Dream 7 and raided Chuck Schumer's office to make sure that he fights for the DREAM Act. She's a real fighter here. She's now with Our Revolution. And I think 2018 is going to be amazing. I'm energized by the Chelsea Manning news today. And I think the establishment doesn't know what's coming and what's going to hit them. So, by the way, if you guys want to suggest people that we should talk to, you've already done that. We've already taken your advice and had a lot of people on the show based on that. You can email at rebelhq@tytnetwork.com, okay? rebelhq@tytnetwork.com, and we will consider your suggestions and have some of those folks on this show. By the way, on just a quick fun note before we go to the interview, I forgot to tell you guys Dick Durbin's new nickname from Trump. That is not part of Rebel headquarters, so we'll save that for no Trump talk here. We'll save that for the post game, and that's of course tytnetwork.com/join. All right, now having said that, let's go to our first interview. Brianna Westbrook is running for Trent Frank's old seat. I love that it's Trent Frank's old seat. He's one of the worst congressmen we had. He's a Republican from Arizona. And today it was big news that Chelsea Manning's running for senator in Maryland, and Brianna is good friends with Chelsea. So perfect timing. Brianna, welcome to Rebel headquarters.
Glad to be here.
All right, great. So Brianna, let me talk to you first about your race, and before we get to the Republicans, let's talk about who you are. Why did you decide to get involved in politics? What did you do before, and what made you enter this race in the first place?
Well, what made me enter this race was just I got sick and tired of sitting on the sidelines and waiting for a hero for the people to really stand up and be a champion for the issues that we talk about every single election cycle that seem to be constantly repeating itself. And what I did is I originally got into this thinking I was going to face Trent Franks, and I thought that would be the biggest stage possible to make the most amount of change socially and economically to the entire nation with my candidacy. So I felt like I needed to get involved and do more. I've never been in politics. My background is not that of a stereotypical politician. I didn't go to Yale, Harvard. More or less, I grew up in the hard knocks. I grew up in severe poverty, made my way through multiple levels of social and economic classes, which makes me an authentic voice for the people.
Yes. And then what were you doing before the race? Because you're relatively young. I mean, you could have gone in a lot of different, and you're very young compared to me, but you could have gone in a lot of different directions career-wise. So what were you up to?
Well, for the last almost 12 years, I've been in the automotive sales industry. I've worked at my current dealership for some time. The average turnover rate in my business is about 90 days. I've thrived for over a decade in two genders. I say that because I'm actually also transgender. I don't identify it openly often, but those who know me and have been following our candidacy do know that I am trans.
Yeah, and so part of the reason I asked you that is because I'm curious. The other reason is because with a lot of the Just Democrats, you guys are real folks working real jobs. There's no millionaires and billionaires here. You're working a car dealership, and bless their hearts, by the way, what they cared about was how many cars you sold, and not what gender you were.
Exactly.
So, and I think that they found you guys because you actually genuinely care, and you showed that you cared. What were the things you were working on politically while having that day job? The things that animated you.
Well, the things that animated me were just LGBT rights. After transition, there's no rights to protect the transgender community here in Arizona, and we got the no promo homo laws here in our schools. So I've actively, since transition, been fighting for civil rights for the LGBT community, but I've never been on the forefront. I've never ran for office. This is the first time I've ever done it. Definitely not the last. This is what I'm going to be doing the rest of my life.
All right, great. Now, I'm sure that there are other Democrats in the race. Now that Franks is going, they got to be the establishment's probably pretty excited. So why vote for Brianna Westbrook rather than other Democrats in this race?
Well, why vote for me? It's because I'm going to be an authentic voice for the people. Over the course of the last year, I've been investing in people and not money, because I believe that's what we should be investing in as politicians and leaders in our community. I am standing up for things that are important to everyday families. I want people to see my candidacy as a reflection of themselves. The issues on my platform hit home with just about every single family here in the district, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on. A living wage, automatic voter registration, providing an affordable education for all, Medicare for all, renewable energy, because our high utility bills here in Arizona just keep getting increased each year. So all of the issues on the platform hit home with just about every single household. And I'm not influenced by money. I'm not bought, and no special interest groups are gonna sway my vote with the persuasion of money. I am persuaded by people, real people, hardworking people that are struggling to get by. So yeah, I am a voice for real people.
Yeah. No, look, that's why I love these Just Democratic candidates, and the staff worked super hard to find just the right people to run in these races. They are the unbought. They're the uncorrupted. There's no corporate PAC money. They're not serving anyone but you. And Brianna, I don't know if these are in order of priorities, but looking at your website, looking at your priorities. So of course you care about transgender rights, LGBT rights, as you explained. That's what you're working on. But you've got fighting for Medicare for all and a livable wage at the very top. So, I feel like a lot of times, whether it's Danica Rome or others, the rest of the media assumes that that's your number one issue. So, you mentioned all those other issues there, and so to what degree are you animated by those issues? Do you have a sense of priorities here? Like, for example, for me, I think corruption is the most important issue. That's why I love that you guys are on board. So give me a sense of priorities.
Well, they're all equal to me, because each one of them are core values that we need to be championing. But like you said, being unbought and campaign finance reform is really like the core root. We need to focus on that, because once we get that, we can really accomplish all these other things. So I applaud you on the Wolfpack. Campaign finance reform is really the bread and butter. It'll make all these other things a lot easier to get through the House and put into law.
Yeah, and I love that you got livable wage there, because people in Washington, New York don't understand. They're like, what? The stock market's up, we're all rich. No, not the people in Arizona, right?
Yeah.
And we need higher wages. We need higher wages, and people work really, really hard, and that makes a giant difference in their lives. So now, Brianna, one other thing. Normally, I wouldn't ask about this guy. I didn't even know you and Chelsea were friends, but she did announce today that she's going to run for Senate. So, did you know that Chelsea Manning was going to run for Senate? Have you guys communicated about it at all?
I knew. She told me not to say anything, so she did tell me that she was thinking about it. I knew it was in the hopper, I guess you could say. It didn't come as a surprise. She, like me, has been really fed up with the system and the way that it's been designed to shut out people's voices. So she felt that it was something she needed to do, and I applaud her.
So, of course, the establishment is going to give her no chance. What do you think? Does she have a fighting chance?
I think she has a fighting chance. She's got people behind her. People are stronger than money, and people are stronger than the establishment. And that's been shown time and time again. When we rise together on causes, we can accomplish anything.
So, look, your background is partly relevant. So it's what you fight for is more important. But when you look at Chelsea Manning and the hell that they put her through, and then she comes out swinging, that matters, man. That means she's a fighter. And Brianna, you've gone through a lot in your life, whether it was the poverty that you grew up in, the difficult decisions you've made, and I'm sure the grief that you got as you were doing that. It matters that you come out of that in a fighting position and swinging and ready to fight for others. So, look, my priorities are clear. Who I'm rooting for is clear. We don't hide it on this show. So I want to give everybody the links to how they can help and donate and volunteer. They're right there. Look, time is always more important because knocking on doors and calling people and letting people know about these great candidates is the most important thing. But if you can't give time, then at least throw in small dollar donations to make a difference here. And and how are you doing on your campaign in terms of volunteers and funding?
Well, volunteers have been great. I haven't held. Maybe it's something I shouldn't have been doing. I should have been doing a little earlier as fundraising. But I'm kind of ran an unconventional campaign. Since the very beginning, I've been investing in people. So I have a very giant volunteer base, not just in Arizona, but throughout the entire country. My Twitter profile, for example, has a little under 3 million impressions for the last 30 days. Because I feel that people are the forefront, and I think that people will show that we can beat money. Because poor people don't know rich people. Rich people know rich people, so it's a lot more difficult for me to raise money opposed to somebody that's from wealth. So investing in people has kind of been the forefront. But my volunteer base is big. Individual contributions have increased greatly since the Justice Democrat endorsement back in November. We saw a little over 1,300 individual contributions pretty quickly. So I encourage everybody, if they could though, to donate just small dollar amount. No donation is too small because it all adds up in numbers.
And look, at least Chelsea's got big name recognition. But the biggest challenges for people like Brianna is getting their name out there. And sometimes you do that by knocking on doors and making the calls, and that's why volunteers are so important. Sometimes you do that by raising money. So Brianna Westbrook, running in Arizona. All the links are down below in the description box on YouTube and in the comment section on Facebook. Thank you so much for joining us and for fighting the good fight.
Thank you so much.
All right, really appreciate it. Okay, now when we come back, we're going to talk to Erica Andiola. She's one of the Dream 7. She raided Chuck Schumer's office to make sure that they fought for the DREAM Act, and now they at least partly are. I want to hear her thoughts on that. And I love the action that she took. So let's come back and do that as soon as we can. All right, back at Rebel headquarters. Now we've got a special surprise for you guys. We're going to talk to Erica Andiola. She's the political director of Our Revolution. But oh no, here comes Kai Newkirk from Democracy Spring. Two powerhouse progressives for the price of one. He's going to join her in this interview. Erica and Kai, welcome to Rebel headquarters.
No, here comes Kai Newkirk from Democracy Spring.
That's a nice
Two powerhouse progressives for the.
All right, we got an echo issue there. But let me ask you guys a question, and hopefully we'll sort out the echo as we go along here. So, Erica, you went into Chuck Schumer's office and other offices. You were part of the Dream 7. What did you guys do there, and what was the hope? And then I want to get to whether that hope was realized.
Yeah, of course. So the reason we went into Schumer's office was because we were very clearly asking for him to pledge something that we're calling the New Dream New Deal pledge, which means that right now Democrats have the ability and have the leverage to, tell Republicans, if you want to vote for the spending bill, which is coming up on January 19th, then you have to pledge that you're going to vote, for the Dream Act to be included in there, and that you're going to allow for the Dream Act to be included in there. So, Schumer is the leader of the Democratic Party in the Senate, and so for us, it was important that he not only pledged himself, but also that he allowed or he pressured the rest of his party to do it. And we told him, if you don't do this right now, we're going to stay in jail until you get it done. Unfortunately, it didn't happen in December, but we're still pushing for it to happen again in January 19th as we have a chance.
Okay, so I want to come back to that in a second, but Kai Newkirk from Democracy Spring is a guy who is used to a lot of direct action, and I was there with him when we got arrested fighting money in politics in Washington, D.C. So Kai, I imagine that you were in favor of the direct action that Erica and her colleagues took there in the Senate.
Absolutely, it's MLK Day today, and that's a reminder to us that no great democratic struggle in our country has ever been won without using the tool that King called the sword that heals. That's nonviolent direct action. So we knew it wouldn't be any different in this case. And it was an idea that we came up together to do this, what we ended up calling a jail strike. And we all felt that it was really important to do something that would communicate the moral urgency of this fight and create more of a sense of political crisis that dreamers, undocumented young people like Erica can't wait. And we can't allow Democrats and Republicans of conscience who say they want to do something about this to delay.
Yeah.
As King said, delay all justice is justice delayed is justice denied. And we couldn't tolerate that right now. So people had to do an action that would involve a deeper sacrifice. And it was incredibly powerful what they did. I wanted to go in with them, but we understood there needed to be more support on the outside. And it was tough knowing that she was in there and that the others were, but people were moved across the country. And we went from 8 Democrats, I believe, who voted against the spending bill earlier in December because it didn't include DREAM, to 30. And that was a huge jump. And that's what these kind of actions do, and we've got to keep it going.
So you're right, Kai. It is just great to talk to you guys on Martin Luther King Day. I mean, it's perfect that you guys are on today. And that's exactly what Martin Luther King called for, nonviolent direct action. And he was willing to risk arrest, and he was willing to risk a lot more than that to fight for our rights. And that's what you guys are doing. And seeing two huge progressives, in my opinion, fighting for the same cause in the same direction, it's just great. Great to see. So now, Erica, I want to turn back to you and figure out where we are in the fight today. So you guys did that action, as Kai pointed out. You've got a lot more Democrats on your side now. In terms of the budget bill, where are the Democrats on the DREAM Act, and do you think that they're in the right place yet?
I mean, there's been a push, for the DREAM Act to be, to make a deal with the Trump administration, with the White House, and with other Republicans in Congress, in both the Senate and the House. Unfortunately, I mean, that hasn't gone anywhere. I mean, Trump just said recently that he wants to, that he's not going to take the deal, and also the deal, unfortunately, has a lot in it that we can't take. I mean, things like, that would really push our families and the rest of the communities a lot deeper into the shadows. And so that's just not working. And so for us, again, the strategy going into Friday, this Friday, January 19th, is to double down on this ask and this demand for Democrats to not just use us for political purposes. I mean, a ton of Democrats reach out to me to go and speak, and tell my story in their campaigns, because they say that they support Dreamers, but when it comes down to actually, putting the foot down and say, Republicans, if you want to vote for the spending bill, then you have to put the DREAM Act in the bill. And if they don't do that, to me, that's really betraying us. And that's really, again, backstabbing us like they did in 2010 when 5 of them didn't vote for the DREAM Act. And so it's important that we continue the pressure on Democrats. Obviously, we're not letting Republicans off the hook. It was Trump who ended DACA. It was the GOP who continued to attack our communities, every time they get a chance for the majority of the party. But now is the chance for Democrats to be the ones that can really be there for us on a time that on a time of crisis for Dreamers.
Yeah, look, it's a given that the Republicans are on the wrong side, at least for now. But when we have to keep pushing and pushing and pushing Democrats to actually be progressives, it is maddening. But it makes a difference. That's why we have to push. So our Dream campaign is teamed up, by the way, with Seed, Our Revolution, Democracy Spring, that Kai's from, Progressive Democrats for America, Justice Democrats, and Presente. So that's a lot of different groups. One of those, the Justice Democrats, had a petition to call for not just DACA, but net neutrality and Social Security and Medicare protection to be part of the budget deal. And Erica, the logic there was, if you fight for 3 things, you have a much better chance of getting 1 to 2 of those. And that's one way to go. I think at a minimum, I always keep thinking it's at a minimum. Social Security and Medicare are sitting there at over 80%. Net neutrality is 60 to 70%. DREAM Act is 70%. So that's one way. The other thing is to ask for a clean bill. I mean, if we have 70% of Americans on our side and we can't plant our flag on that, what can we fight for? And it's really hard not to get frustrated with the Democratic Party.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, again, the fact is that the majority of the American public supports the DREAM Act, and people are surveyed over and over again, asked if they support DREAM, and there's more than 80% of the American public that says yes. They never ask if they would support it only if it comes with border security and only if it comes with more enforcement. And so, it's going to continue to be our push and our ask. And, we can't I cannot gain a path to citizenship understanding that, my family, my mother, my brothers and sisters could get deported. It's just can't happen.
So if you guys don't know, Erica's also a dreamer. And so it's personal in a lot of different ways. By the way, it doesn't have to be personal. Kai's not a dreamer, he fights. I'm not a dreamer and I fight. We should all fight for one another. I mean, today I ripped into Mia Love on the show because now that Trump has attacked Haitians and she's Haitian American, she now realizes he's racist. But Erica and Kai, where was she when Trump was calling Mexicans rapists and criminals, right? She was nowhere to be found, so I'm not giving her any credit for that. We all got to fight together. So Kai, just a direct question on that. So what's the next steps here, both in terms of pushing Democrats and Republicans in the right direction for now, and what happens if they don't go in the right direction?
Well, first of all, I want to say this is personal for me. Erica's my partner, and other people that are very close friends and loved ones to me are going to be deeply, profoundly impacted by this. And I think this is one of the things that's inspired me most about the Our Dream fight so far is we've seen a lot more people that are progressives but aren't undocumented or haven't really been connected to the immigrant rights fight for very long have really gotten involved in this, done actions, organized, taken leadership. And that's what this is going to take. We can't, for too long, Dreamers have been fighting and making huge sacrifices on their own. And we who say we stand with them have to step up and do more. And so for the Democrats, they're afraid of taking the risk of shutting the government down or blocking the spending bill and saying we have to get a deal on this. But real leadership requires courage. Real leadership requires risk. That's what the Dream 7 did. That's what Martin Luther King Jr. did. That's what John Lewis has done in the past. And he came out and he said, in response to Trump with this shithole country's despicable comment. We got to draw a line in the sand against this kind of racism. And he's not going to vote support any government funding unless there's a deal on DACA. That's what we need to get more Democrats to do. And we're organizing actions this week on the 17th and 18th, Wednesday and Thursday, through the Our Dream Coalition to challenge Democrats to do the right thing. That's what we got to continue to do. We have a real chance. There was an article in CNN today that said the Dems are closer to being willing to take this step than they have at any time in the past. That's because of the leadership from the grassroots. That's where the leadership comes from, and then it gets there. You're right that we shouldn't have to fight so hard to get the Dems to do the right thing. We have to transform the party. We have to do the kind of work that Justice Dems, Our Revolution, and many others are trying to do. But we can't wait for the next election. We've got to force the ones that are in there now to do the right thing and shift them over to the real kind of leadership that our country needs.
Okay, by the way, the links to all these organizations will be in the description box below. Please support them. If you're watching on YouTube and if you're watching on Facebook, it'll be in the comment section. So there's fightforourdream.org and there's a link to a donation there, but we'll also put Democracy Springs link down below as well. All right, one last question for you, Erica, and it's a tough one, and I'm not sure where I come out on it. If they have a bill that protects streamers, which is great, but has a couple of $2 billion for the wall or what they call border security, and it passes their otherwise odious budget, and then they attack things that they call chain migration, which is simply family members supporting one another for citizenship, legal immigration, the thing that they pretended they were in favor of. Should Democrats vote yes or no on that?
Well, what I can tell you is that I'm not going to support and I'm not going to push for something that is going to criminalize and that's going to push, like I said before, my community deeper into the shadows. That's just something that I can't, I can put in my conscience of doing that. And also, it could hurt my own family. The rest of my family, majority of them are still undocumented. And so I think right now, though, my biggest focus is not necessarily on asking that question. I'm not the one on the table making these negotiations. We are the people, we are the people right now who have the ability to push what we want. And so, politicians are going to be making deals, they're going to be the ones on the table. I think for us, it's important that right now, until we get this bill to go on the floor, we make sure that we push as hard as we can for what we want and for what the American people want, which is the DREAM Act, without having to deal with security, without having to deal with all these, terrible things that they're trying to add to the DREAM Act. So, it's going to be it's been a long fight. It's very complicated, but I think right now, like I said, we got to keep pushing, and we have a chance this week to get it done by Friday.
Yes, we certainly do, and it would be a great accomplishment. And it shouldn't be too much to ask for, given that even a majority of Trump voters are in favor of the DREAM Act. I mean, and 70% of Americans are. It should be the bare minimum, and it definitely is not something we need to push either side on. But unfortunately, that is the case. And Erica Andiola and Kai Newkirk, as always, fighting the good fight on this. Thank you so much for joining us at Rebel Headquarters. Really appreciate it.
Great to be with you, brother.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys. We got the post game coming up for members next. TYTnetwork.com/join. We'll see you over there.